I am a sophomore here at Princeton University, and I'm interested in studying politics, preferably the Woodrow Wilson School Department. So, Princeton University, it's not that big of a college campus. It's a nice size in my opinion. It's not too small. From one end of the campus to the other, it's probably about 20 minutes. So it's a nice sizable quality, but it's still a campus that you can just walk to get anywhere. Because the college is pretty small, most people do walk around campus. There are a lot of bikers. A lot of people do buy bikes. Oftentimes you have to be careful for them like running over you. But it's pretty much an even split between people who use bikes, people who walk. There is a Tiger Transit, which is a bus system that people can use. These shuttles, they go around the main buildings where most of the classes are located, most of the central locations on campus. They'll usually run throughout the day from like 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. Sometimes on weekends 24 hours a day. And basically you can use them to get anywhere if you don't want to walk, but really it's not too bad to get around by walking. I think the campus really is more beautiful than a lot of other colleges I visited. The buildings, the architecture, it's very old school. It's very much like, like when you look at the movies, the traditional college campus of like Gothic style architecture, stuff like that. Most of that stuff it's either filmed at Princeton or another place with similar architecture to what you would see at Princeton. So I really do think it's beautiful in that sense. There's also a lot of greenery. And it's in a nice town. It's a small town. There's Princeton Township. There's not that much to do. But you do have New York City, just an hour and a half train ride away. So on weekends, a lot of people do like to take the train into New York City, and you can do all sorts of things in New York City. So I feel like Princeton's got the nice combination in terms of campus location, campus size, of being in a small place, being in a secluded place, while at the same time having access to the big city. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can be relaxed here, and you can go have fun there. As for the favorite building, it's hard to say one. I really do think that the chapel is truly beautiful. I believe that our chapel is the second tallest. It's something like that, but it's a really tall building. It's very much in like the Gothic style architecture of the cathedrals in Europe, in Western Europe, and that's one thing I really do enjoy a lot about that. The food at Princeton, a lot of people complain about it, but honestly, compared to food I've tried in a lot of other places, Princeton has variety. There's so many options for vegans. There's 6 dining halls that you definitely have to belong to your freshman and sophomore year. Junior year, you get options like you can join an eating club, or you can go independent, join a co-op. I'll explain more about that later, but first of all, just to clarify on the dining halls, you can go to any dining hall you want. They're usually located near your residential colleges. Residential colleges is where you are assigned to live. It's like a cluster of dormitories that you're assigned to live the first 2 years of your stay at Princeton. You're assigned there randomly. And anyways, you usually go to your dining hall, but you're free to go to any other dining hall. And the food there, for instance, in my Butler Wilson dining hall, which I'm a resident of Butler, and we share a dining hall with the Wilson Residential College. We have a salad bar that just spans like 1/4 of the room in the cafeteria area. And there's tofu with like 3 different types of flavor, iceberg salad, you got Caesar salad. There's also like a pizza selection if you're into that. They have a lot of good choices for vegans and vegetarians. They also have meat if you like meat. It's really hard to really specify, but it's a really good selection, and people who visit from other colleges often say that our food is better or more varied than the other colleges, so I think we got that going for us. Our specialty lies in just having the residential college system and also having eating clubs. So the way this works is you go into Princeton University, you're randomly assigned to one of 6 residential colleges. There's Rockefeller College, we call it Rocky for short. There's Maddie, there's Butler, Wilson, Forbes, and Whitman. And they're all named after donors or famous alumni. But basically the way it works is you live in a cluster of dorms there for 2 years. Afterwards, you can choose to either remain in that cluster of dorms and remain in the meal plan, which is basically letting you, if you pay a certain amount of money, letting you eat a certain amount of times in the residential college dining halls, which I just talked about. Another option is to move to upperclassmen housing, which is basically separate buildings, separate dormitories, and then you go to one of 10 eating clubs that you can either rush. Some of them are like a fraternity where you have to do a certain amount of things and they decide whether they want you or not, or you can just sign on, which is basically you write your name and then they take you in. So basically you have the option of either remaining in a residential college or joining one of these eating clubs. There's 10. They're all on this one street running next to Princeton University. They're not affiliated officially with the university, but they've struck up a plan so that you can pay a certain amount of money and actually go to your eating club, eat there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then 2 times a week you can eat in a residential college dining hall. And you do have to live in a separate dormitory, but that's arranged separately with the university. There's also the option of going to the upperclassmen dining hall, but not joining an eating club, and instead going independent, which means you basically have to make your own food. You don't always have to make your own food. Some people have formed cooperatives, food cooperatives, where you split the costs of buying meals. Say one person buys meals 1 week, they cook for that week, they clean for that week, and then the next week it's somebody else's turn. And everybody just eats the food that one person, 1 or 2 people in the group cooked for that 1 week. And then you switch it off and you keep, rotating it. So I like Princeton that it has that variety there. And you can always find a place where you can enjoy the food, you can enjoy the company, and it's really good. The pros of staying on campus is that there really is no way to stay off campus. You can live in some apartment buildings which are blocks away from the college, but it's really hard to get there. So if you're an undergraduate, your best option really is to stay on campus. The dormitories, there's a wide range of them. I'm lucky to live in Butler, which is relatively new, and to that extent, we do get air conditioning, we do get heating that we have thermostats so we can choose our own heating. We do have people who come and clean up the hallways. We do have to take our own trash out. There's a trash chute that we have to throw stuff down. But I live in a single. There's also doubles on campus. There's quads on campus. There's even suites, which is basically 10 single dormitories surrounding a large common room. And so the type of residency that you can find at Princeton is really varied. Your first year depends on luck. Your second year and your third year and fourth year, it works on a type of lottery system where you're assigned a random time where you can pick what room you're going to live in next year. And how it works is, freshmen, they don't have a choice. You're randomly assigned when you enter the school. Sophomores, you get a random time later than juniors and seniors. Juniors get a time later than seniors. Seniors obviously get first dibs. So basically, when it's your time to choose a room, you choose a room for whatever is left. So the people who had the first time, the seniors, they choose the rooms they want. Then juniors get to choose their rooms they want. And then sophomores choose a room they like from whatever's left. And everybody has like 15-minute time slots, so it's a long process. But long story short, there's a lot of different varieties of room styles. There's really good, there's really bad, and your chances get better as you get older. But it really is so varied that it's hard to draw a specific conclusion. My room, basically, they gave me a wardrobe drawer, a bed, a desk, and a bookshelf. And then a little armoire. Just arrange it however you want. You can buy fridges through the university. You can buy so much through the university. They're more expensive than like the average store, but it's definitely it's a good deal. I would say that overall it's been a pretty positive experience at Princeton University. We are renowned for our workload. For instance, we're I think the only school that really has a thesis due your undergraduate senior year, and then you have 2 large papers called junior papers junior year, and it's just a lot of work involved, which is it gets really stressful at times. But on the other hand, you just see so many people who have so much experience because they've been doing their research, their independent research to do their senior project. People have done like, I know a friend who went to Mexico and studied. He's a linguistics major and he went to Mexico and he studied like a bunch of pretty much local languages that were there, and he wrote a paper on it, and he got it published, and it's being published as an undergraduate. That's something amazing. That's something that's really good for academics. So Princeton, its strength is its academics. I feel it's really rigorous. There's homework all the time. They cram a lot into our 12 weeks because we do have a shorter academic schedule than a lot of other colleges. Most colleges have 14 weeks worth of class. We only have 12. So it's really rigorous in that sense. But on the other hand, you do get a lot more out of it. There's people who have so much experience in what they do. People who go in. I'm studying Chinese for my second year, and I'm already able to have conversations with native Mandarin speakers. And it's just the type of thing that they drill it into you, but the payoff is great. You just learn so much in such little time. So I would say that's one of the college's strengths. Also, the amount of resources that are here. We have some renowned professors: Peter Singer, Cornel West, the mathematics professor Conway. We have a few Nobel Prize winners I can't name them off the top of my head myself, but if you Google it, some famous alumni: Brooke Shields, the famous President Woodrow Wilson. Which we have a whole public policy department named after. Also the Madison, who was also the second president of the United States, who also graduated from Princeton. There's a lot of great people in the alumni section. There's a lot of great people in the professors. And just the fact that Princeton really prides itself, and because it is a relatively small community, 6,000 students, you're able to make personal connections with the administration, and through that you're able to really secure a lot of resources. If you want to study abroad, you can go talk to a professor that you know really well. They'll give you like $1,000 just to like go abroad and study what you want. Of course, you have to have a good plan, but you have the opportunity to do what you want. As for the weaknesses, I would say that to a certain extent, just because it is so rigorous, Princeton does lack kind of that the college vibe of some of the other colleges. That some of the colleges you go in, you have a lot of time where you just spend time discussing with people, intellectual discussions, and just going to activities, kind of being like the college activists. And there's not a lot of that here, because there are a lot of intellectual people and they're engaging a lot academically, but they're engaging through writing, they're engaging through classes, they're engaging through class work, and it's really fulfilling. You get a lot out of it, but there's not a lot of that on the ground action, some of that young student, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, be energetic. None of that vibrancy that you would see, say, in like Brown. And there's not much of that partying that you would see going on in some other colleges, like some of the like UVA or like Dartmouth, which have like parties like some people go to frat parties every day, and it's not that seen at Princeton. Most rewarding experience at Princeton definitely has to be starting Princeton Against Sex Trafficking. It's a new organization that I started this past spring, and something I learned through it is just that the university is very accessible. I came with the idea to the PACE Center, which is focused on civic engagement groups, and they're like, yeah, just go for it. They gave approval, and since they've been able to give me funding, to be able to invite guest speakers like Ruchita Gupta from Apnea, and also people from the GEMS program, which is focused on rehabilitation of former sex workers in New York City. And also we're currently working on creating a conference, and just the whole skills that you learn, the whole communication skills that you learn, the whole logistics, like planning, what rooms to get, when to get them, how to organize speaking events, how to advertise the events. It's been a really great experience, and the Princeton administration has been really helpful in getting me through that. The most challenging experience at Princeton really has been keeping on par academically, just because when you go to class, especially smaller classes, precept, which is if you have a class of 150 or such lecture style classes, they usually break you up into smaller groups called precepts, where you discuss the material that we discussed in class that the teacher was lecturing us about, but take it to a small setting and apply it more seminar style, which is like everybody expresses their own ideas, people bounce off of each other's ideas, they rebut, they affirm, they agree or they disagree with what the other person says, and you kind of get to some main points through that. And just some people I come from a public school, not a very rigorous academic setting, and just having to engage with the eloquence that some of the other students had was certainly something that you kind of get used to. You have to be outgoing, you have to put yourself out there. And that's more of a general case. Princeton has a lot of resources, but you can't wait for them to come to you. You have to go get the resources yourself and be active. 3 words to describe Princeton? Wow. Prestigious. I would also agree with my friend Jackie and say it is competitive. We do have great deflation when 35% of students can get A's. That varies from department to department, but you know, it's like kind of a standard. But that being said, Princeton is also open in the sense that you can, whatever you want to do, you can do it. The administration has so much money to just give to students to do what they want. It's a small student body, so the faculty can dedicate their time to you. And like I said, you can do anything you want at Princeton. Literally, I mean, everybody will tell you that, but Princeton really does have, like, I think one of the most money per capita per student, as well as a small student body, so that you can really create personal connections with professors and administration and really do what you want. Princeton is pretty diverse too, kind of diverse. 1 in 10 students are said to be international. Most students at Princeton are kind of like if you're talking about ethnicity, Caucasian. There's a large East Asian contingent. A lot of Korean, Japanese, Chinese descent. There's not many Latinos, not many African Americans. There's a few Africans actually, more Africans than African Americans. A few Indians, South Asian students. Not a significantly large portion, but still significant. I would say that people are very open to diversity in terms of sexuality, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of socioeconomic status. In terms of the actual diversity there is, though, I feel like most people at Princeton are middle to upper class. By American standards, would probably be upper class by international standards. The financial aid program is great, so like anybody who is struggling financially, I know people they chose Princeton because it was the only school that would give them full rides, and it's just great financially. So for lower class students, so I feel it's really good. That being said, it's surprising that there's not that many from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. There's not that many students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds at Princeton. As to departments that Princeton considers exceptional, I feel that the strongest departments are the math department here at Princeton, and Princeton is also renowned for the Woodrow Wilson School, which basically focuses on public policy from an interdisciplinary approach. You look at economics, you look at sociology, psychology, politics, political theory, as well as applied politics, a lot of math, and that's the department that I'm actually interested in. One of the interesting things that they offer is that you can do task forces, which is basically you focus on an actual problem in a part of the world. You go to that part of the world, some people say in the US, some people go to Hungary or China, and for instance, if you want to combat human trafficking, you focus on that, and you focus on, okay, what's the policy that's going on now, where's it lacking, and what recommendations can we make? And I just find that to be fascinating, and that's one of the strengths that they emphasize in the Woodrow Wilson School. But, there's a lot of fun classes. I actually think that my favorite class has been, it's called, it was called The Tragic, the Comic, and the Political. It was basically a great books lecture, a great books seminar with the Professor Cornel West. He's a famous person who teaches the Southern Baptist preacher style, very fiery, very, very eloquent with your words, and at the same time very questioning, making you think for yourself. And if you just Google Cornel West, if you just look him up on Google or Wikipedia, you can find a lot about him. And just having him sitting in front of you in a class of 12 people and discussing writers like Plato, Beckett, Lorraine Hansberry, books like Miss Lonely Hearts, Dante's Inferno, and just discussing what it meant in terms of what is our purpose in life. We just discussed what is these authors trying to convey as to what is the right way to live life. That was just amazing, and you see that a lot at Princeton, especially in the upper levels. Least favorite class was economics, and that's the one thing about introductory classes. They'll be full with 100 plus students. The professors are good in their field, but they're not necessarily the best at lecturing, so you gotta be careful with the introductory classes. You usually want to go for the higher level classes, and if you need to learn introductory stuff, learn it yourself. As to how easy it is to adapt to the academic setting, I did say Princeton is rigorous. You can't, if you're not ahead of the game, you're behind. And so you really have to be working all the time. I mean, not all the time, but you have to be on top of things. You can't let anything fall behind. The major part of staying ahead is being organized, knowing when the deadlines are, and knowing how to structure your time efficiently so you can do everything on time. A class that one must attend, if possible, take a class with Professor Peter Singer. The guy is like an infamous philosopher who's a hardcore utilitarian. I'm in this class right now. It's called Practical Ethics, and it's just like so mind-blowing, like going over the issues like, is it ethical to eat meat? Is it ethical to have abortions? Voluntary euthanasia, is that ethical? And just like the way he like structures his arguments is amazing, because it's like, it goes against our nature. Like he says we need to donate our money to the point like it's pretty much, he's arguing like a form of like communism to an extent, not like forced, but like we should we're morally obliged to give as much money to another person until the point where the level would be, their lifestyle level would be the same as ours. And it's just, like people always like kind of think that, but it's like some people are like, I mean, it's nice, but I'm not morally obligated. But Peter Singer makes an argument that's so radical, but so strangely convincing from a utilitarian perspective that it's hard to say. Just take Practical Ethics, Center for Human Values 310/Philosophy 385. 250 pages of reading a week, 200 to 350 pages of reading a week for people who are focusing on the social sciences like myself. The science people usually do problem sets, which is basically a series of like math-related, science-related questions. Social sciences and humanities usually focus on readings, which is like, again, 250 to 350 pages, I'd say about 10 pages of writing a week to 2 weeks. It goes on and off. So I mean, it's hard to put an exact hour to that, but you can probably make your own calculations knowing yourself and estimate it from that. I would say overall the college is more academically inclined. Not to say that there's not a big social scene on campus, which I do want to talk about. Princeton is known for like just focusing on really cultural awareness. There's a lot of activity with the LGBT movement, mostly raising awareness about their presence on campus, raising awareness about the human rights issues that the LGBT community faces. For those of you who don't know, LGBT is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people. The activity that they do, the socials that they do, and the educational course that they do is amazing. They also do have a lot of religious things. One of my friends is very involved with the Sikhs at Princeton. They do a lot of really cool things. They do socials, they do dances. They had a really large part at the Diwali event we had recently at Princeton. There's also a large Christian presence. There are a lot of events do focus on there's like Manna, there's Princeton Faith in Action, Princeton Evangelical. There's a lot of Christian groups. Princeton is known as a conservative Ivy, and thus there is a large spiritual group. That being said, you don't have to belong to it. There's so many dance groups. You can pretty much go to a theater performance or a dance performance every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. There's always something like that going on. And if not, the eating clubs that I talked about earlier, they also double as party places on Thursdays and Saturdays. So you can go to the street, you can go in, and it's kind of like a house party. You dance to music. Ideally, if you're of the age, you can drink. I'll admit they're not very strict about that, but you can have fun. You can just go with friends, go out, have a fun time, and there's always something to do. Princeton also has a partnership with a local theater called the Garden Theater that you can go Fridays and Saturdays at like midnight and watch a movie for free. Princeton also does like residential colleges will do different things. Butler, where I'm in, they'll have like a different trip to Broadway show every week or 2 weeks. So there's just so much to do. In addition to like lecture series, like they'll have like guest lecturers like doing a free public lecture every day almost, or like dinner discussions where you sit down with a professor and like 10 or so other students and just sit and talk about any one topic. There's so much to do at Princeton. It's hard to find the time to really do everything. But it's really great. It's really great. I'm involved with Princeton Against Sex Trafficking. I'm actually co-president along with Shika Uveroy. And we focus on raising awareness of the issue. We bring in guest speakers. Again, Ruchita Gupta, Rachel Lloyd from GEMS. We also did a fundraiser for the Red Thread movement in Nepal. And it's kind of like civic engagement, social awareness. There's a lot of other groups like that. There's Students for Education Reform, Princeton Social Entrepreneurship Initiative. There's pretty much everything for any interest that you are. I'm also involved with the Dream Team, which is trying to pass the Dream Act legislation here at Princeton. So I'm more on the social activist side. There's also ballroom dancing. I'm involved in ballroom dancing. I really enjoy it. I really got a lot of social skills out of it, along with learning how to dance, learning how to interact with people, learning how to compete in tournaments. Yeah, they have ballroom dance tournaments, and it's just really fun, just going to other colleges, meeting new people, and dancing. Also involved with WPRB radio, which has really improved my communication skills. You create your own piece, you decide what to report on. It's very laid back. It's just an independently run radio station that is partially student run. I operate the news section. That is student run. And we basically choose a different topic we want to talk about. We go on air for 30 minutes each week, and we write, produce, and publish our own pieces. And it's really great. Just going through that whole process of like interviewing professionals and summarizing ideas and being able to express that eloquently. There's a lot of groups on campus, and you should just check it out. Check out the website, look at what there are. Office of the Dean of Undergraduate Students has a list of activities and organizations that there are. We have study breaks also, just adding that. Like, a lot of groups will throw study breaks where you can just go eat free food and just hang out with people. As for fraternities and sororities, I must say there are fraternities and sororities, although they're not recognized by the university. So you can join at your own peril. You technically not supposed to join. They're actually banning rushing during freshman year, but if you really want to, you can find them underground. They usually don't have like houses on campus, and have big parties, but they have like small gatherings, and usually pre-game, usually drink before you go out to the street, as I was talking about earlier, to the eating clubs and dance. So they're kind of like an auxiliary to the eating clubs rather than an actual presence themselves. Sports, unfortunately I'm not that much involved with sports. Unfortunately, Princeton did not feel it's strongest in sports in general, but at the Ivy League we're pretty renowned for our sports. We're pretty good. Our football team's not the best, but I think our basketball team's pretty good. I think our lacrosse team is pretty good too. Swimming team is really good. And the athletes just, the way they find time to balance varsity sports and academics is amazing, because Princeton doesn't cut corners for varsity athletes, and they're still able to pull through. I guess it ranged from like I was from North Carolina at the time, so I applied to local schools, UNC Chapel Hill, Duke, Wake Forest, the usual. Also applied to some Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, the whole list. I was choosing between Brown, Princeton, and Duke. And the thing that really got me about Princeton over Brown and Duke is Brown did have the culture that I like, kind of like the hippie culture, like not hippie, but like kind of more activist, kind of more relaxed, and more like discussing ideas theoretically and stuff like that. Duke was I think very homogeneous in terms of culture. What I liked about Princeton is just like the opportunities that Princeton had. Princeton, more so than any other campus, I realized, had opportunities where Princeton students could take on leadership positions, have administrative backing, and really do what you want to do. And really, there's so many students that are here like doing independent work, studying abroad, and getting Princeton not just financial backing, but also like mentoring backing, also like advice on what to do, and having academic advising and stuff like that. Just Princeton has the community to really make whatever you want to do a success, more so than any other college, I feel. And the reputation doesn't hurt. I mean, Princeton, Harvard, Yale are the big three. But Princeton is so undergraduate focused that I think Harvard and Yale are more graduate focused. And what I liked about Princeton is like they focus on their undergrads much. They make sure that every undergraduate succeeds. So in Harvard, whereas you have some people who go above and beyond, but you also have a lot of people who kind of fall back. Princeton, you don't really see many people who fall back. Many people you see fall back are those who let themselves fall back, who don't do the work at all. But if you do the work, if you're struggling, people will step up to ask hey, what's wrong? Faculty will step up to ask, hey, what's wrong? People will be offered to help. So Princeton's great on that extent. As for the right fit for Princeton, you really do have to know what it is that you want to do, because I do feel like there's a lot of amazing people here. There's so much to explore, but at the same time there's so little time because the work is so much. You have to know what it is you're coming for and do it. I really do have to say it's hard to find the right fit. Princeton is a little bit more on the conservative side, politically conservative, so it's more, I guess, for conservatives or libertarians. Not so much on the liberal side. There's a liberal contingent. I myself am liberally oriented, so I can say there is a liberal contingent. There's a contingent for everything, but the vast majority of people, they're more conservative. They're more like, instead of like ideology, they're more focused on like what works. What is a pragmatic way to achieve my goals? Not just like, what should I think? What should I feel? Like some of these other colleges are like, what's right? What's wrong? It's like, okay, I as an individual already know what's right and what's wrong. How do I accomplish my goal? Economics. A lot of economics majors, so very economically oriented. A lot of engineers as well. As for, I think, what advice into applying to college, I think Princeton really does focus a lot on academic achievement, but also on really having a passion. Everybody who I've talked to has like done something amazing in one area. Be it education, be it healthcare, something that they did that was amazing in one area in their high school career, or something they're passionate about that they research extensively, and that they go into school knowing what they want. So Princeton, I think, focuses more than anything else on your potential to succeed based on your experience and also on your passion for something specific. And your passion on like really, this might sound cliche, but changing the world. Being a world leader. They really encourage that leadership aspect, and they want Princetonians to be leaders. We have an ethos of leadership, and that's what they focus on. So when applying, make sure you know what it is that you want to do, and make sure that you know what it is that you want to feel a leader in. And that's it.